Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to unpack the life of Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah.
A man who needs no introduction.
Definitely not.
Using this biography as our guide, we're going on a chronological journey.
Right.
Starting with his family roots and ending with his presidency.
Okay.
To help us sift through all the details and find those aha moments, we have our expert with us.
I'm ready to dive in.
So we're talking about Donald Trump, a quintessential American figure. But let's rewind the clock.
Okay.
Where does this very American story actually begin?
Believe it or not, it starts across the pond.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. His grandfather, Friedrich Trump, emigrated from Germany at the young age of 16 in 1885.
Wow.
He left his small village, Kallstadt, and set sail for New York, seeking opportunities in America.
Wow, 16 and already striking out on his own.
Right.
That takes guts.
Yeah.
And what about his grandmother?
She hailed from the Isle of Lewis in Scotland.
Okay.
Mary McLeod made the journey to New York in 1930, right as the Great Depression was setting in. Imagine leaving everything, for a new life, especially during such uncertain times.
Yeah, so both of Trump's grandparents were immigrants who came to America seeking a better life.
That's right.
That's quite a foundation for the family story.
Absolutely. It speaks volumes about the drive and ambition that seemed to run in the family. They came from humble beginnings, and their success in America was built on hard work, resilience, and let's be honest, a willingness to push the boundaries.
Yeah, you're right, that immigrant narrative that's striving for something more.
Yeah.
It feels deeply woven into the Trump family fabric.
Mm-hmm.
And how did Fred and Mary Trump Donald's parents meet? Was it a classic New York love story?
Not quite. They ended up settling in Queens, New York.
Okay.
Fred had already started building a reputation for himself, developing homes in Brooklyn and Queens.
Right.
He was a man who knew how to make things happen.
Now, I can't help but recall something about Fred Trump's early life that raised some eyebrows.
You're probably referring to his involvement with the Ku Klux Klan. It's a dark period in his story and something that has been documented and discussed extensively.
Yes, exactly. I remember reading about his arrest during a Klan rally in 1927.
Yeah.
It certainly adds a layer of complexity to the family history.
Indeed, it's a reminder that history is rarely straightforward.
Okay, so fast forward to Donald Trump, born in Queens in 1946, growing up in a comfortable environment in Jamaica Estates.
Okay.
What kind of childhood did he have?
Well, despite the comfortable surroundings, he was known to have a bit of a rebellious streak, often clashing with teachers and challenging authority.
Here's where things start to get interesting. I came across some stories about his childhood antics, like hitting a classmate with a lunchbox. Sounds like a kid who wasn't afraid to make his presence known.
There are a few accounts that paint him as a bit of a troublemaker.
Okay.
One anecdote even describes him and his friend Peter Brandt venturing into Manhattan to buy switchblades.
Really?
They envisioned themselves as tough city kids, quite a contrast to their privileged upbringing.
Switchblades? That's a pretty striking image for a kid from a wealthy background.
Mm-hmm.
So how did his parents handle this rebellious side of him?
His father, Fred, was a firm believer in discipline.
Okay.
When Donald's antics persisted, he decided to send him to New York Military Academy,
Wow.
a private boarding school.
That's quite a shift. Talk about a change of scenery.
Yeah.
What impact did the military academy have on him?
It was definitely a turning point at the academy. He thrived in sports,
Okay.
particularly baseball, even earning recognition in local newspapers for his athletic abilities.
Wow.
He was also promoted to captain in his senior year, showcasing a knack for leadership.
So he was a star athlete and a leader, but did the rebellious streak fade away in that strict environment?
Not entirely. Teachers still described him as surly and daring, suggesting that his strong will never truly disappeared.
It seems like we're already seeing some of the traits that would define his later life, that ambition,
Yeah.
the drive to excel, and a certain disregard for conventional roles. It makes you wonder, did the military academy mold these characteristics or simply amplify what was already there?
That's a great question. It's likely a bit of both,
Yeah.
but there's no doubt that his time at the academy left a mark on him,
All right.
shaping his views on disciplined leadership and the importance of winning.
And after graduating from the academy, did he immediately follow in his father's footsteps?
He initially enrolled at Fordham University in the Bronx, but later transferred to the Wharton School.
Oh, wow.
At the University of Pennsylvania, he graduated with a degree in economics in 1968.
Wharton is a highly respected business school.
Yeah.
Was he a top student soaking up all the knowledge?
Accounts from that time suggest he was more interested in deal-making than academics.
Okay.
There's a story about him trying to buy apartments near campus to rent out to other students,
Okay.
seeing it as a lucrative business opportunity.
Sounds like the entrepreneurial spirit was already strong.
Yeah.
So after Wharton, he officially joined the family business.
That's right. While he could have pursued other paths, the allure of real estate and the opportunity to make a name for himself in Manhattan proved irresistible.
Right.
It was a chance to step out of his father's shadow and carve his own path.
So this is where the Trump story truly takes flight. He sets his sights on Manhattan, a world apart from his father's focus on the outer boroughs.
Exactly. One of his first major projects was the transformation of the Commodore Hotel, a fading icon near Grand Central Terminal,
Wow.
into the Grand Hyatt Hotel. This was in the mid-1970s, a time when New York City was facing a financial crisis.
Okay.
Trump saw an opportunity amidst the turmoil.
It sounds like he had a knack for spotting potential where others saw only problems.
Yeah.
But how did he manage to pull off such a major project, especially in those challenging times?
He was a master negotiator using a blend of boldness, calculated risks, and some would argue a touch of misdirection.
Interesting.
He played the city, the sellers, and the Hyatt hotel chain against each other,
Wow.
leveraging their needs to his advantage.
That's classic Trump, isn't it?
Yeah.
Always working the angles, pushing the boundaries to get what he wants.
Yeah.
And the Grand Hyatt, did it live up to the hype?
It did. The Grand Hyatt became a symbol of Manhattan's revitalization, and it solidified Trump's position as a major player in the city's real estate scene. He had arrived.
But his journey wasn't without its bumps in the road, was it? I'm thinking specifically about the construction of Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue.
Oh, yes, Trump Tower, his grand statement on Fifth Avenue.
Right.
To make way for this iconic structure, he had to demolish the Bonwit Teller, building a beautiful Art Deco landmark.
Right.
He initially promised to donate some of its artwork to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, but ultimately backtracked on that promise.
I recall that sparked quite a controversy. Critics accused him of sacrificing a piece of architectural history for profit.
It did.
Yeah.
This incident highlighted a recurring theme in Trump's career.
Yeah.
A willingness to prioritize his business interests, even if it meant clashing with public sentiment or going back on his word. It foreshadowed future controversies that would become synonymous with his name.
And then there was the issue of undocumented Polish workers employed in the demolition and construction of Trump Tower.
Right.
He faced legal challenges for that as well.
Indeed, even in his early successes, there were hates of the ethical questions that would continue to dog him throughout his career.
It's like we're witnessing a pattern emerge.
Mm-hmm.
A pattern of pushing limits, bending rules, and navigating a world where controversy and success seem intertwined.
You're picking up on something crucial here. It's during this period that he forged a close relationship with lawyer Roy Cohn,
Okay.
a figure known for his aggressive tactics and his role in the McCarthy hearings in the 1950s.
Right.
Cohn became a mentor to Trump, shaping his approach to business and his dealings with adversaries.
Roy Cohn, the architect of hardball legal strategies,
Oh.
that's a pretty formidable influence.
He was.
What kind of lessons did he impart to Trump?
Cohn emphasized the importance of relentless counterattacks, never apologizing and projecting strength. Even in the face of setbacks, he taught Trump to see the world as a battleground where victory was the only acceptable outcome.
Wow, it sounds like Cohn's philosophy resonated deeply with Trump. It's almost as if he provided the blueprint for Trump's future approach to business and eventually politics.
It's a fascinating connection and one that sheds light on Trump's later actions with Cohn's guidance. He learned to operate in a world where perception often trumped reality and where winning at any cost was paramount.
So we've got Trump, the ambitious young developer, learning from a master of hardball tactics. What happens next in this high-stakes game?
Well, after conquering Manhattan, he sets his sights on a new frontier, Atlantic City. He saw the potential of casino gambling to revitalize the struggling seaside town. It was a gamble,
Right.
but one that he embraced with characteristic gusto.
I remember those Trump casinos. They were extravagant, over the top, a complete departure from the traditional image of Atlantic City.
He envisioned it as Trump City, a glittering monument to his brand. He even put his wife Ivana in charge of running one of the casino's Trump Castle.
Wow.
It was a bold move, placing her at the helm of a high-pressure, high-stakes operation.
Wait, Ivana was running a casino? That sounds like a recipe for drama.
It certainly added fuel to the fire. Ivana clashed with other executives, and there were whispers that Trump was becoming increasingly distant from her, drawn to the attention of other women.
This is where the tabloid saga begins, right? The late 80s and early 90s were a whirlwind of headlines about Trump's personal life. His very public divorce from Ivana,
Yeah.
his relationship with Marla Maples. It was hard to escape the media frenzy.
It was a turbulent time for him, both personally and professionally.
Yeah.
The late 80s and early 90s saw an economic downturn, and Trump's businesses, including his prized Atlantic City casinos, began to crumble.
So the seemingly invincible empire was starting to show cracks. The high-flying lifestyle was losing altitude.
Precisely, he was facing enormous debts, billions of dollars, and the unthinkable loomed the possibility of losing everything.
Yeah. I recall reading that he came perilously close to bankruptcy. How did he manage to navigate that financial abyss?
He did indeed come within a hair's breadth of financial ruin.
Wow.
He managed to negotiate a deal with his bankers,
Okay.
but it came at a steep price. They seized control of much of his empire, forcing him to sell assets and even placing him on a strict personal budget. For a man who had built his identity on winning it was a humbling fall from grace.
Wow. To lose his wife, nearly lose his fortune, and be forced to live on a budget set by his creditors. What kind of impact did that have on him?
It was a crucible, a test of his resilience. He had been knocked down, but he wasn't out. Instead of retreating, he did what he had always done. He reinvented himself.
Okay, so he's staring down financial ruin. His personal life is in shambles, and yet he manages to bounce back.
He did.
How did he pull that off?
He doubled down on the Trump brand, embracing his celebrity status and exploring new ventures. He bought the struggling New Jersey Generals football team and even dipped his toes into the world of professional wrestling. It was as if he was determined to remind the world that he was still a force to be reckoned with, even if the arena had changed.
It's fascinating how he transforms setbacks into opportunities to reinvent himself, from real estate mogul to reality TV star to sports team owner. He seemed to thrive on the spotlight no matter the context.
Exactly. It speaks to his adaptability and his keen understanding of media and public perception.
Right.
He knew how to capture attention, generate buzz, and remain relevant even when the chips were down.
And it was during this period that his interest in politics began to take root, right?
That's right. He had flirted with the idea of a political career for years,
Okay.
even forming an exploratory committee in 2011. But it seems like the 2012 election, specifically Obama's victory, was a turning point for him. He became increasingly vocal in his criticism of Obama and the direction of the country.
I remember his outspokenness. During that time, he became a prominent voice in the birther movement, questioning Obama's legitimacy as president. It was a controversial stance that fueled his rise as a political figure.
Indeed, his willingness to embrace controversial issues, to tap into existing anxieties and grievances, proved to be a powerful strategy. It connected with a segment of the population that felt disillusioned with the political establishment.
So we've traced his journey from his immigrant grandparents to his rebellious youth, his rise as a real estate tycoon, his tumultuous personal life, and his near financial collapse.
Wow, what a story.
And now we see him stepping onto the political stage, a stage that would become his ultimate platform. What a wild ride it's been so far.
It really is remarkable, and in 2015, he made the leap, announcing his candidacy for President of the United States. It was a move that many dismissed as a publicity stunt, another chapter in his long history of self-promotion.
But he defied expectations, didn't he? His campaign, fueled by his brash persona and his populist message, resonated with a segment of the American public that felt ignored and disenfranchised.
He tapped into a deep well of anger and frustration, particularly among working-class voters who felt left behind by globalization and economic change. He promised to make America great again, a slogan that captured the yearning for a simpler, more prosperous time.
His campaign rallies were unlike anything we'd seen before. They were raucous, energetic, almost like rock concerts. He connected with his supporters on a visceral level, feeding off their energy and channeling their grievances.
His rallies became a phenomenon, a testament to his ability to captivate an audience and create a sense of shared identity. He understood the power of spectacle, of creating a narrative that resonated with people's emotions, even if it lacked nuance or factual accuracy.
And then against all odds, he won his victory in the 2016 election, sent shockwaves through the political establishment, and across the globe, it was a moment that defied conventional wisdom and exposed deep divisions within American society.
His presidency was a tumultuous period marked by constant controversy, a revolving door of staff, and a barrage of tweets that kept the world on edge. He challenged long-held norms, alienated allies, and pursued an America First agenda that upended decades of foreign policy.
Love him or hate him, there's no denying that he was a transformative figure in American politics. He changed the rules of the game, disrupted the status quo, and left an indelible mark on the nation's psyche.
His presidency was a stress test for American democracy, raising questions about the limits of executive power, the role of the media in a polarized society, and the fragility of truth in the digital age.
It's amazing how a man with such a colorful and unconventional background, a man who had experienced both soaring highs and crushing lows, would ultimately ascend to the highest office in the land. It's a story that could only happen in America.
It's a story that reflects the complexities and contradictions of American society itself, a nation built on ambition, resilience, and a constant striving for reinvention. And Donald Trump, with all his flaws and contradictions, embodies that spirit in a way that few others have.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, exploring the life of a man who's been called everything from a visionary to a demagogue. It's a story that continues to unfold, and one that will undoubtedly be debated and analyzed for generations to come.
It's a story that reminds us that history is rarely simple, that individuals are complex and multifaceted, and that the past always shapes the present.
A huge thanks to our expert for joining us on this fascinating deep dive into the life of Donald Trump. We've only scratched the surface, but I hope it's provided our listeners with a deeper understanding of this enigmatic and consequential figure.
It was my pleasure.
And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey. We always love hearing from you, so let us know in the comments if there's a particular individual's life you'd like us to deep dive into next.
That's right.